For instance, I would not tell someone else, whether it be a stranger or a loved one, that I hate them, that they're ugly, that they're stupid, that they're fat, anything along those lines. So why is it okay for me, if I love myself, to think those thoughts about myself? Why would it be okay for me to look in the mirror and go, God, I'm so ugly. I'm so fat. I'm so stupid. That is very disrespectful. That is very unloving. That is not something you would tell other people, especially if they're people you're close to. So if it's not okay to say that to them, it's not okay for you to say it to yourself. Just like the whole treat others the way you want them to treat you. If I'm treating them with kindness and I'm not saying those really hateful things, then I'm going to treat myself with kindness and not say those hateful things. So it's a two-way street.
So find a way to
Hello, beautiful beings of light. My name is Monica, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 7 ways to practice self-love. So in my last video, I had touched on the subject of self-love, and I had said that I was going to follow up with another video going into more depth about how to practice self-love. And the reason why I had thought about this is because while I was filming the other video and I had mentioned self-love, I had this realization that many of us come from broken or dysfunctional families or dysfunctional homes that did not have a healthy environment, which may have taught us or engraved in us beliefs about what love is and how to show it or how to receive it, which got me thinking about what I consider self-love to be. Because I am one of those people who grew up in a household sort of like that, where I didn't really know what true love looked like in a sense. I mean, I did in some aspects, but not in others. And so I have compiled a list of things that have helped me over the years, and hopefully some of them may help you as well. These are not in any particular order. I just wrote them down as I was thinking of them. So I'm going to start with number 1, and that is to ask for help when needed. And not just asking for help when needed, but accepting help when it's offered. And of course, this is not a hard and fast rule. There are going to be times where maybe you don't feel the need to ask for help because you want to do something on your own and prove to yourself you can do it, or someone may offer your help, and again, you want to be able to do it yourself, so you don't accept their help. But this is something that has taken me about 30 years to learn. And I just recently discovered this because I am a person who is way too overly self-reliant and super independent. And this stems from a childhood of experiencing abandonment and neglect, and from being on my own technically since I was 16, but I was taking care of myself way before that. And so I didn't know how to rely on people. I didn't really have family. And I was too young to feel like I could ask for help from friends because I felt like they weren't in that kind of space to help me, because I was very mature growing up because I had to take care of myself. So this left me with this mentality of I have to do everything myself. That whole saying of if you want something done right, do it yourself. And I didn't realize how bad it was until recently. I was thinking about it one day because my husband had asked me for a favor. And to be honest, I was kind of irritated because I felt like he was always asking me for favors. He's always like, can you bring me water? Can you turn off the lights? Can you go turn on the heat? Can you bring me this? Can you bring me that? And I was just thinking, why is he asking for so many favors? Because I personally almost never ask him for anything. I don't ever ask him to bring me anything or get me anything. Even when I'm sick, which is really rare, I try not to ask for too many things. And when I was sick growing up, my mom had to work. So if I was sick, I was at home by myself, taken off from school, and I would have to go make my own food. I'd have to make my own soup and pretty much like take my own temperature and get my own water. So I felt like I couldn't really relate to other people who had someone in their life or multiple people in their life who could help take care of them because I was so used to taking care of myself. And then I realized it's not that my husband asks for too many things or too many favors. It's because I don't ask enough. I don't pretty much ask at all because I just figured if I don't ask, then he won't ask. But that's not the case. That's not how he was raised. And so then I was like, you know what, babe, I'm going to ask you for more help. I'm going to ask you for more favors and to help take care of me. And he was like, yeah, he was like, you should do that. He's like, I would love for you to do that. And I know that the few times that I have asked him for things in the past, he was so gracious about it. He was always like, yeah, I'd be happy to fill up your water or, you know, to bring you your phone or to whatever it was. So then I figured out, you know, he does want me to rely on him more because I do rely on him in some ways, like financially, but not in like the physical aspect of, like I said, doing favors or even an emotional aspect. Sometimes I'm just like, I can handle it all on my own. I'm a strong woman, that sort of thing. And when I was really sat down with that and was thinking, why am I so overly reliant on myself? Why am I so afraid to ask for help or even to accept help? And it's because, you know, not only is that how I was raised, so it's part of my programming, it's just what I've always done, but I think the root of it is that I'm always afraid that people in my life aren't going to be there because that's been my reality for so long, that people just come and go and no one really is fully there for me. And so then I'm always kind of mentally preparing myself to always do things for myself because I can't rely on other people to be there to help me out later. And that makes me feel very vulnerable. And I don't like that feeling of being vulnerable. It's a survival mechanism for me. I have to do everything and be everything in order to survive. And I have been with my husband for almost a decade, and it took me this long to figure it out. But, you know, that's okay because he still loves me, you know, even with all of my flaws. And he's very patient with me and he's very loving. And that's exactly what I need. And I'm just happy I finally figured it out because, you know, like they say, better late than never. And around the same time that I had figured this out about myself and why I do the things that I do, I had to go into town to UPS and pick up a package. And the package was a mattress for our RV. Like, we had just upgraded to memory foam and, you know, like a better quality of mattress. And it was one single mattress that was rolled up really tight inside of a very large, long box. And I was a little nervous about having to carry this package by myself, like picking it up out of the store and carrying it out of the store and carrying it to, you know, my vehicle, because I saw online that it said it weighed about 54 pounds, which I know I can lift, but a box that big is kind of awkward as well. But I still went in like, you know, I'm a tough, strong woman. I can do this. I don't need any help from anybody. And so I was going to get the package. So the UPS workers had it sitting on the counter. So I pick it up. It's like super awkward. And there's a bunch of people in UPS. And I'm about to go out the door. And this nice gentleman was like, would you like some help with that? And I'm just like, no, I got it. And he was like, are you sure? He's like, let me help you with that. Because I had that big package, but then I also had like a little teeny tiny envelope package as well. And he was like, how about you carry that and I'll carry this? And then I was like, okay. Even at first I was like, well, maybe if he could get the door. And he was like, no. He's like, I got it. So I thought maybe at first he worked there because he had a headset on and he was carrying it to the truck. And when we got there, I was like, oh, you can just set it on the ground and I'll figure out how to, you know, put it inside, like make room for it. And he was like, no, that's okay. I got it. And he was still holding it while I was unlocking the back of the truck. And I heard him start talking and I realized he was talking to the headset, not me. And he said, I'll be right there in a moment. He's like, I have my hands full, you know, as usual. And then he laughed. So it seemed like he was a very helpful guy. And I was very appreciative that he took the time out of his day because it seemed like he was maybe on break from work or was just running an errand. And maybe he worked in that shopping mall center to help out someone who looked like they were struggling. I used to think that if a man helped me with something, then he thought I wasn't capable of doing it. And it's not that I wasn't capable of carrying it. I definitely would have carried it just fine and gotten it into the truck just fine. But the gesture was nice. It showed that chivalry is not dead. He didn't hit on me. He wasn't creepy at all. He was just a very nice person. And that just felt like confirmation of it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to accept help sometimes when it's offered. On to self-love tip number 2, and that is to treat yourself the way you want others to treat you. And I know this is similar to the saying of treat others the way you want to be treated, but I feel like it goes both ways. You also have to treat yourself the way you want other people to treat you. You show people how to treat you. An example of this would be your own personal self-talk. What I've decided for myself is that I no longer am going to think negative thoughts or say negative things to myself if it's something I wouldn't say to someone else. For instance, I would not tell someone else, whether it be a stranger or a loved one, that I hate them, that they're ugly, that they're stupid, that they're fat, anything along those lines. So why is it okay for me, if I love myself, to think those thoughts about myself? Why would it be okay for me to look in the mirror and go, God, I'm so ugly. I'm so fat. I'm so stupid. That is very disrespectful. That is very unloving. That is not something you would tell other people, especially if they're people you're close to, like your family or your friends or your partner. So if it's not okay to say that to them, it's not okay for you to say it to yourself. Just like the whole treat others the way you want them to treat you. If I'm treating them with kindness and I'm not saying those really hateful things, then I'm going to treat myself with kindness and not say those hateful things. So it's a two-way street. So on to number 3, which is listen to and follow your intuition. I feel like this is something that sounds very cliche and, a lot of people are like, oh, everybody knows that. But we're still living in a society that is very keen on following your head, being very logical, overanalyzing everything, every single bit of data, and ignoring what your heart says, what your intuition says, how you feel, put your feelings aside and just do what you got to do. So I definitely wanted to put this in as a reminder. A classic example that I think I've given before is someone who was raised by a family of doctors and who wants them to be a doctor, but they want to go to art school and they want to paint, but their parents aren't supportive of it because they don't think it's going to make money, and you got to be more logical about it. And I feel like a lot of people will just go with whatever their parents are pressuring them into doing because they feel like they want to maintain or even earn their love and respect, and that they know what's best for them. But we can't live for other people. Our life decisions may impact other people who are close to us to a certain degree, but nowhere near how it actually impacts us, because we're the ones who have to live with it every single day, all of the choices that we make. And even if we make these choices because of outside influences, it's still a choice that we made, and so we have to be held responsible for those choices. One way to start practicing using your intuition, if you haven't done it in a while and you're not really sure how to listen to it because you've ignored it for so long, I would say start by asking very easy, simple, small questions throughout the day, just such as, how am I feeling? Am I feeling tired? Okay, well, I'm going to go rest. Or I'm feeling hungry. Maybe I should go get some food or go get a snack. When we start tuning into ourselves, how we're feeling, and what's going on internally, then it makes it easier to recognize what your intuition is trying to tell you and to also follow it. There's a reason why they say we feel love through our hearts and not through our heads. Intuition is definitely in your heart chakra space and not in your logical brain of, well, I should do this because of this and this. You may think certain things about a situation, but you may not feel the same way about it. And that's why a lot of times our heart and our head conflict. And I always say, go with your heart. And then in the future, when you've started to learn to trust your intuition, when you get that inkling of, I feel like I need to move somewhere, or I don't want to be in this relationship anymore and I want to leave, or I don't like this job anymore, I want to look for something else. And I feel like you'll get to that point of building up courage to take the necessary steps and to manifest something different. And that brings me to tip number 4, which is to rest when you are tired. Sounds simple enough, right? This is something I struggle with almost every single day. I've had a lot of issues when it comes to self-worth and self-value most of my life. And I tie my value and my worth to what I'm doing. So when I had a regular 9-to-5 job, I was putting 110% in all the time pretty much. Like, I wanted to be the best I could be and work super hard and move up the corporate ladder. So I was very hard on myself to be an overachiever and all of that kind of stuff. So when I stopped working a regular job, I still took on that same mentality of, okay, I'm going to be doing something every second of the day. I would find myself having trouble even sitting down to like watch a movie if there was like one dirty spoon. I'd be like, okay, I just need to get up and clean that spoon. And I wouldn't really allow myself time to rest. I never felt like, no matter how hard I worked, that I didn't earn it and that I needed to constantly be doing something to feel valued and feel like I've earned my place in the world or something like that. So I always had this thing of, after I finish everything on my to-do list that day, then I could finally rest. And then after years of doing this, I finally discovered that doesn't work, because 1, I usually don't get everything done on my list. A lot of things can take more time, like they're more time consuming than I realize they're going to be. Other things come up that have to be taken care of first. Life happens and you don't get to those responsibilities that you want to that day. That happens a lot in 9-to-5 jobs as well. We just can't get everything done in one day. And 2, the difference is now I don't have a job to clock in and clock out. My job is pretty much all day long. There's always something that I could be doing to improve something somewhere. Like, there's always something. I can always be cooking, I could always be cleaning, I could always be running errands, I could be, spending time with my dogs, taking care of them, spending time with my husband, I could be making a video, I could be editing a video, I could be coming up with ideas, I could be meditating. Like, there's like 1,000 different things I feel like I could be doing during the day that I need to do in order to feel productive. And that's what it is that I would tie productivity to my value. So I had to get so much done in order to feel that I was good enough. But the thing is that no matter how much I ever did, I never felt like I earned time to rest or a day off even. And that's another hard thing to navigate, is because I don't work a regular job anymore. So I don't really have a day off. It would be like a day off of life where I had no responsibilities, but there's still always some things to do. So I've learned the hard way that I need to rest when I'm tired. I have a very flexible schedule. I make my own schedule. I'm in charge of my own time. So if I want to push something back or hold it off till another day, I have the luxury of doing that. So it's me who's stopping me from resting and from doing that. So I've noticed that even if I allow myself some time to take a nap, and I usually can't sleep more than like half an hour or even 20 minutes, a 20-minute power nap, and I feel so much more re-energized and refreshed by the time I get up and I'm ready to do more things. The other thing is, once in a while I will take what I call like a whole day off, which isn't technically a whole day because I still have to walk my dogs, I still have to eat and all that good stuff, but I allow myself off from like making a video or from going into town and doing whatever it is that I would need to do that day, and just, like I said, push it to another day. And that rest day, I will do whatever I want. I will watch TV, I will read, I will sit outside and just, I don't know, breathe fresh air and do nothing. And I used to feel really guilty doing that. But now I realize once I do that, I again am just really rejuvenated for the next day, and I'm more productive. So the more I push myself to keep working, the less productive I become. When I let myself rest, the more productive I become. I wanted to mention a few things I did to rest throughout the day when I was working a full-time job. I would sometimes take naps in my car on my lunch break if it wasn't too hot or too cold. We had a relaxation room that people would alternate using throughout the day, and I would sometimes take a nap in there. I also made sure to utilize all of my vacation time. I'm really surprised at the amount of people who don't want to take their vacation time and feel forced to at the end of the year so that they don't lose it. But I always made sure to use mine early on and the way that I wanted to use it. And once in a while, I would use my sick time to take a mental health day and spend the day just relaxing. Here in America, we have a very work-based culture. Work overtime, work all the time, work, 100 hours a week or whatever. It's gotten pretty ridiculous. And I know one of my most recent jobs, I got to the point right before I left where me and my coworker were having to come in early. We were having to stay late. We're having to work through lunch. We're having to come in on weekends and holidays. And I was just like, enough is enough. I did not come here to this earth to just be a work slave all the time. And that was at the point where I had my breaking point before I quit. And so that mentality did not just go away because I left that physical environment. It's still ingrained in me because I hadn't processed it. I hadn't dealt with it. I hadn't healed from it. And it's taken a while, but I feel like I'm finally getting to that point where I don't feel like I have to be productive all the time because we're not human doers. We're human beings. We're here to be. And that's okay. We have to be before we can do. Number 5 is to set boundaries and to follow through with them. If you feel like you want some in-depth information on what are boundaries and how to set them, then I will link my video up above that goes into more detail about that. And just a basic background is that I used to be someone with very weak boundaries. I pretty much never said no to anyone. I was a people pleaser, a yes person. I was like a doormat. I was super passive. I was afraid to get into confrontations. And I wasn't happy when I didn't have boundaries. It took me going to therapy later on and my therapist pointing out that I needed to set boundaries, and I didn't really understand what they were or why it was important. And it was something that we focused on almost every session. He explained the difference to me between passive, passive-aggressive, assertive, and aggressive. And I got to the point of being assertive and being very clear and communicating what I wanted, what I didn't want, what was okay, what was not okay. And I taught people how to treat me because I didn't want to be a doormat anymore. I remember always saying yes to people when they needed a ride, and I really didn't want to be people's chauffeur even if they were giving me gas money. I didn't want to drive people around all the time who just kept asking, it seemed like every other day, for rides, but I just did them because I didn't realize that what I really wanted was to be liked, to feel loved, and to, what I thought, make other people happy. But it wasn't making me happy, and I wasn't respecting myself by doing that. And what's the point of having everybody else love you if you don't love yourself, if you're not showing yourself love and respect and honoring yourself? Because you could end up doing things that you really don't want to do, things that you're uncomfortable with, things that you end up regretting, or you feel guilty, or you feel shameful about. So by setting those boundaries up front, I like to do them right away when I start any kind of relationship with someone, whether it be romantic or otherwise. Like I said, these are the things I'm okay with. These are things I'm not okay with. Please don't talk to me this way, or it's okay if you talk to me this way. It's something that can take a lot of practice, but if you do practice it, you will get it down. You will start to notice that you will feel more self-love by standing up for yourself, basically. So on to number 6, which is show yourself you're worth your time. This is another thing I had to figure out. Because my love language is doing things for other people, I tend to go overboard with it. I notice that I spend a lot of time doing things for other people than I do for myself. So I will spend more time taking care of my husband, our dogs, taking care of our home, making sure it's always clean and it's always fully stocked. I've always tried to be a loyal friend. I'm always there if someone needs me or wants to talk, or if they need to get together in person and hang out. When I lived in a single location. And I know I've always dedicated myself to my job. So with all of my bosses and my coworkers. I would give all my time and energy to them. So in general, I know a lot of people spend the majority of their time catering to their boss and to their work, dedicating themselves to working, to taking care of their family, especially if they have kids, and just being there for everyone and everything else, even taking care of our car, making sure it gets cleaned and on the inside and the outside, and getting it gas and oil changes. And we don't spend a lot of time on ourselves. And I noticed this when I try to incorporate more healthy eating, like to be very conscious about what I'm putting in my body. Or there'll be times, for example, like, oh, I'd like to make a salad. I know that if I eat it, I will feel good. I'll get a lot of nutrients, but it's so much work. So instead, I'll like pop in a frozen pizza or something like that, some kind of junk food, eat it, feel like crap, and then wonder why I didn't just make the salad. Because the truth is, it would have taken about the same amount of time. Let's say a pizza takes like 15 minutes in the oven when you put it in there. A salad will take 15 minutes or probably less, depending on what you decide to chop up and put in it, and if you make your own dressing or something like that. But making the salad requires more effort, more energy than just putting something in the oven and not thinking about it until the timer goes off. So then I realized that what I'm telling myself subconsciously is that I'm not worth it. I'm not worth the time of putting in some extra effort to make something that's really nutrient dense, that's going to help me to feel good, that's going to help me live longer if I keep doing these lifestyle habits of eating really healthy and exercising, that sort of thing. So now when I want something that takes a little bit extra effort, like if I want to make something from scratch that's going to be really good, instead of going, oh, I don't want to, that's going to take a long time, or that's going to be a lot of effort, I tell myself I am worth investing in myself. I am worth my own time and energy. Because I know whatever time and energy I'm not spending on myself, I'm going to be spending it on someone or something else. So it's not that I don't want to help or take care of other people. It's just I also have to make that time for myself. You really do have to put yourself first before you can help anybody else. And to make sure you're not selling yourself short. If you treat yourself like you're not worth the time or the energy, then you're pretty much putting that out into the world. And that is probably what's going to be reflected back to you, is that other people don't respect your time and your energy. And that may influence you to continue to feel that you're not worthy of having some extra time and energy spent on yourself. So that brings us to our final self-love tip, which is number 7. And that is to validate yourself by validating your feelings. I know a lot of times when we get upset or we get into a fight with someone, we usually will run to someone else, like a friend, as a shoulder to cry on or just someone to vent to. And I feel like many times the intention of doing that, maybe not consciously but subconsciously, is that we want that other person to validate us. We want them to validate our feelings by telling us the other person was wrong, we were right, and we have every reason to feel the way that we do, and that it's okay to feel that way. And it took me a while to realize that I don't need someone else to validate how I'm feeling. I don't need anyone else to tell me that it's okay to feel the way I feel. I validate myself first. Yes, I may still go and talk to someone and maybe vent to someone after, but first I acknowledge that whatever I'm feeling is completely okay. That it is valid to feel however I feel, even if it seems like a negative emotion. I think that when we feel a certain uncomfortable emotion, I'll use jealousy, for instance, that we feel like we're a bad person and we try what we can to not feel that way and we try to resist that emotion. And I don't think there's anything wrong with how you feel, even if it's something like jealousy. Jealousy is just telling you that someone else has something that you want, that you don't currently have. Let's say that you know someone who's in a really healthy relationship and you admire qualities about that person's partner. That doesn't mean that because you're jealous, you're going to go and try to steal that person away from them. So feeling jealous or feeling any kind of emotion does not make you a bad person. It's just trying to tell you something. Your feelings are trying to tell you what's going on internally. And then we can sit with ourselves, do some internal reflection, and just ask, well, why am I feeling that way? Without judgment, without trying to change it, without trying to suppress it or make it go away. Just accept that it's there, acknowledge that feeling, and sit with it. Just sit with it without judgment. And then remind yourself, it's okay for me to feel this way. I'm validating my feelings. And then, like I said, you can go and talk to someone else about it. But I think it's really crucial that we acknowledge and validate ourselves first before we're trying to get external validation from other people in order to feel better about the way that we feel. So those are all of my self-love tips. There are many, many ways you can practice self-love. These are just some that I came up with that I felt like were a little bit unique compared to what I've heard before. And it was something a little bit less obvious than just taking care of yourself and getting, a massage or taking a bubble bath or something that you hear a lot of. So I wanted to make this one a little bit different. Please let me know if any of these tips have helped you, or if you have any tips of your own that you would like to share. I would love to hear them. And until next time, I will see all of you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.